Hey, kiddos. Welcome to the club, Dracoda Mondays, Seneca High School. Well, we're not in high school right now, we're on summer. This will be a reading of one of our books, What Lies in the Underneath. In our club, each semester is turned into its own little book. I'm not an artist, so I gotta use the AI with my own improvisation on the title, but it's all Mr. Wu written and all the things that you would do. All the crazy stuff, too. Part of this reading here is to get you into the story if you're interested in what happened in the past. And for me, as practice as a DM, just reading stuff and speaking really helps you be able to keep following along and recover from mistakes. If you're interested in DMing yourself, this might be some good practice. Okay, let's get ourselves situated here. Session 1, A Waking Nightmare. The clang of steel ran across the plaza, sharp and unrelenting. Metal teeth struck against steel, echoing like the heat of a pitched battle through the ruins and narrow caverns of the underneath. I could feel its rhythm in my still beating heart, beating like a drum of doom from the nine hells. The stone tiles of the ancient ruin trembled beneath our feet as the groaning mass of metal pressed forward. But there was no battle, at least, not for now. Only the slow descent of the great elevator from the surface, our only escape. Cries of terror in the distance mixed with the turning of gears as if in the heat of battle. I gripped my two-handed greatsword tightly, the glint of torchlight and lumen stones reflecting off my freshly polished black armor. Yes, I am a fool. Delusions of grandeur danced in my head when I came to the underneath. I was lured by the stories of treasures and glory beneath Pandora's, the eternal city. The war religious reformation raging above between golden knights of the church and red cloaked firebrands had already scorched the land. Why push a plow for fields that would soon ripen into ash by the holy men or the heretics? Why toil when I could rise to fame by slaying monsters born of darkness below? I sold everything I owned for a half rusted suit of armor and restored an old blade with methodic strikes of a cracked whetstone. Perhaps some crusader or inquisitor swung it in the past, and yet they died all the same. We stuck to the safer zones, the first level of the ruins of old Pandorus, a cursed city buried under the stone and soot. We hunted dark-light goblins in its old, winding streets and hallowed homes. Dark-light goblins, pathetic things, really. Red, frumpy, pointed hats, toothy grins, and a strange madness in their eyes, as if they were not themselves. Hey, that's cool, isn't it? We all laughed as we cut them down. For a moment, I truly believed it. Me, Nemesis, a true hero. Suave, mysterious, a knight in jet black armor, matching my short black hair and bronze skin. Tales of my glory would be sung in by bards and taverns. Adventurers would beg to raid at my side and fight to win my favor. And women would want me. All of them. Whoa, he wants a hammer. The one they could never truly have but desire from afar. But they are dead now, my friends. My illusions, all gone, swallowed by the stampede, devoured by the darkness all around me. I gripped my trusty blade with my hands. My armor gleamed not with glory, but with blood, the last offerings of my fallen friends. The red badge of glory, like the metal heroes wear, the only ones to even believe in my dream. I stood at the edge of the plaza facing the darkness, my back to the yawning shaft of the great elevator. If nothing else, I would hold the line, buy time for the other shattered remnants huddled beneath the flickering warmth of the torch and lumen stone light. Behind me, the gears ground on, echoing like distant screams carried on metal breath. I turned to check the others. They must be like me, survivors by accident and not by design. A motley crew that would have never come together under any other circumstances. There was an elf girl, tall, a little too tall even for her kind. Long brown hair drifted behind her cloak, like it longed for a spring breeze far from this dying place. Alice. Yes, I think her companion called her that. She had the look of someone who lived more in books than in the real world. Beside her stood another elf, taking a protective posture, Rico. Male with blonde hair, likely no relation. Alfhaven, maybe? Mix of wood elf, little high elf. Then Alice must be from the Misty Wood. Strange, though. Their specialties seemed to be the opposite of where they had come. Alice was a warlock wielding the spells of the void, and perhaps following a master from some evil plane, probably from ISAP. Rico wore the garb of a druid, but one too clean, too carefully groomed. City-born, perhaps. Inexperience must have brought them here, same as me. They were pressed closest to the gate, backs nearly against the metal bars blocking them from falling into the endless void of the shaft. Weakest of the bunch, I assumed. All elves seemed that way to me. Dainty, aloof, arrogant. But fear has a way of burning away pride, just like it did with my own feigned heroism. Another elf lingered nearby. Her skin was an odd gray, purplish hue, like a drowned noble elf swallowed by the darkness of the salt spray sea. Short, maybe even 5 feet, but her stance held no fear. Not that she wasn't afraid, it was in the face of one with nothing left to lose but her life. She stood poised, twin blades at the ready, posture detached and regal like a wind dancer or a duelist in some court, or perhaps a queen walking amongst beggars. I leaned away from my right. Two firebrands, worshippers of the red dragon, a so-called angel of Edom. Vulcanar, the blazing inferno, the one who purges evil in fire and flame, fanatics who hate their own more than the enemy, but trusting a fight when confronted with pure evil rather than personal sins. The first was a giant of a man, 6'6", broad shoulders and sweating face, cased in heavy armor, and a blazing tabard of gold trim and a fiery center. His face was locked in a permanent snarl. Short blonde hair dripped like a dwarf pounding away forever at a forge of endless steel. His hands gripped a blazing amulet, ruby red like the burning desire of their faith. Two short songs hung from his hips, but he made no move toward him. He prayed, but cursed. Couldn't tell which from the strange chanting. At his side stood a faithful companion, Morgan. Flail and shield in the hand of a cleric, slightly shorter but more intense in his mission. He had the look of someone with something left to live for, something to prove, to protect, to procure. His gaze was sharp, stormy, like lightning caught behind his eyes. Maybe he was dragged into this fight by his short silver hair. Or maybe he had no other path left to walk, just like me. Burning just behind crackled fire, a fire genasi. She was maybe, 5'4", her long crimson hair whipping in the wind from the shaft like smoke from a crumbling ruin. A fire curled in her palm, flickering and twitching just like her frantic gaze. I followed her eyes across the plaza, locking on a ruined inn, half swallowed by the shadows of the underneath. Its once grand entrance laid hollow and empty, like a skull in a tomb. Two red lumen stones flanked the doors, like the smoldering eyes of a black dragon rising from an endless mire, watching, waiting. There were two others who stood apart on each side. They were certainly less explainable from my knowledge, which is not that much to be honest. Zorus, a wiry half-elven man, maybe 5'10", a mossy green hair matched by similarly awful colored leather pants. His white tunic clung to his body, wrapped beneath a cloth belt holding two swords. A third he gripped in his teeth with a dagger in his hand. Pirate, maybe? They say they plague the salt spray coast near the city. Regardless, he must be here for coin. People like that only help when there's no other option. Then there was Samson, a stocky, red-bearded, bundled in thick winter gear that didn't match the temperate weather on the surface. A strange choice, perhaps half armor, half cocoon. Those without coin don't get much choice in the way of armor. I can respect adding more layers if there's nothing else. Or maybe it was for the familiar scent of home. A scent that made me glad he stood a few paces away. Ooh, P.U. Despite the danger, his face was pale and distant, the look of a man who did not fear death, just being forgotten. The house beyond the darkness faded to a low murmur. Were we being granted a reprieve? A moment more to speak then, brief words, short and curt. All of us had entered the underneath with others, friends and companions, full parties of willing souls. Now only we few remained, survivors pulled together by chance as we fled the stampede. I turned back to face the dock. The plaza was still. Shadows shifted just beyond reach of the shaft's pale light. Torch fire crackled as something faint shuffled in the dock. The elevator's gears groaned and ground endlessly, turning painfully slowly. Was it ever coming? I maybe hit the button again. Then I saw them. Their red eyes, dozens, hundreds, a forest, glowing, staring from the void, all watching, waiting. Servants of some mad god, no doubt. They had been there all along, assembling, gathering, preparing for their final charge. Dark-light goblins. Imagine a standard gob, but strange and misshapen. Without the light of day, they grow like weeds from the ground, twisting and bursting through the wall. Hewn stone. They live to destroy what once was, and what will never be again. Some of their number bear the strange lanterns, each dripping with a violet glow, devouring all the light around them. Their aura swallowed illumination whole, like the depths of a dark sea. I can only imagine a black hole reaching out to pinch our pitiful light, and our very souls with it. Someone threw a torch into the dock. It tumbled across the stone, flames flaring and spinning. As it rolled, shadows whirled and writhed. Dead adventurers lay scattered across the stones, their bodies twisted and broken, armor torn, limbs bent like a used rag thrown to the ground. How did we not see the others fleeing behind us? Holy smokes. We could have saved them, couldn't we? The torch came to rest against the dark gray foot, claws clutching the flame like a candle. He grinned. A mouth too wide for his face. Razor teeth. Catching the glint of the firelight, dripping in dissipation of the meal. Its last meal. We would not be their prey. I drew my sword. The weight of it still awkward but real. I could feel it twisting in my gut. I won't escape this place, will I? If I can live to be a hero I dreamed of, then, well, let me die like one in this nightmare. And God! A volley of arrows fell upon us like a hail from a storm. My blade rose in time to deflect the worst of it, but the obsidian-tipped shafts chewed through flesh among the others. They bit shallow and snapped instantly from the wooden shaft. A weak shaft, perhaps. Do they not mean to kill us, but to infect us? Weaken and spread pain until the kill is made. A sudden sharp cry, sharp and practiced, the sullen elf girl Alice raised her trembling hand. Returning fire with a lash of crackling energy. Her eldritch magic tore through the dark, singing past my ear before its light was dashed by the black maw of a leaping goblin. Eldritch blast! Coward though you may be, your aim is true, Madam Elf. I swung my blade blindly into the thing. Ha! I felt its body rupture on my blade, meat and sinew parting like overripe fruit. Something from the cafeteria. Blood sprayed across my armor, mixing with those of my fallen friends. A lantern of violet hue shattered at my feet, and with it, the false darkness parted around us, revealing the true, gray dark tide. Goblins, dozens rushed in one mass. They shrieked, mad with purpose, like an oncoming wave of mud flooding a mire. With their lanterns extinguished, there was no point in lurking anymore. They howled as they swarmed to us, like the beginning of the school year. Morgan stepped into the breach, his flail crushed bone and limb alike, buying seconds for Anaslad to finish his prayer. Oops, typo. I had to admit, I did not want to see what a firebrand could do in person. They claimed that the Red Dragon, the true angel of Eon Vulcanar, was far more powerful than the gold dragon of the church. I was not disappointed. His eyes opened as he pulled both of his blades, each igniting, imbued with a fire as hot as smoldering lava. The flames licked the edges of the steel. The blades flew into the crowd, like a holy firestorm, burning an arc through the tide. Blood seemed to stream as it swept through, cutting the dark flood in half. Ho! Heartened by the cleansing fire, a fire herself laughed with glee. Firebolts surged from her fingers, shoo, shoo, in wild arcs, shoo, like a volcano bellowing into the night upon a hapless village below. A reckless dance of ruin as she followed closely behind into the horde. I could only imagine her to be kin of a drunken Goliath on tax collection day. Aurella followed like a wraith, gliding through the din. Her rapier shimmered with green fire, burning cold through goblin guts, each strike precise, elegant. I saw the life drain from their bodies, like death himself devouring their soul whole in a single swing. Zoros flowed behind her like water, washing over the polished rock of a reef. His sword sang in threes, the rhythm of a sea-born killer. Each cut flowed into the next, the left, huh, then the right, ha, and then, from one held in his teeth, huh. He fought the tide and not against it, like a shark bursting from a wave upon a boat trapped at the bottom. Samson was much quieter. He followed at a hunter's pace, disappearing into the dark, a patient killer. A goblin leapt from Zor's back, only to be impaled mid-flight. The spear's ice-cold tip glinting as it nearly pierced both prey and ally alike. Perhaps I misjudged him. No matter how many we caught, they did not break. They laughed. Eyes wide as a strange red liquid dripped from their tips, mouth frothing with madness and glee as our blades cut them to pieces. I saw Aurella stab one. It pulled her in closer, so that the blade may drink to its full delight. As he died. It was like a hunger, some desire to consume until consumed oneself. They died giggling, their blood soaking into the stone like water upon the paving. I stopped. Something wasn't right. My eyes pulled me towards the shadows. A twitch. No, no. A shape. No, no. A predator. It pounced. Samson cried out, his claws shredded his cloak. Black fur, gleaming fangs, bloodshot eyes. Like a being of the deep swamps, sleek and gaunt. A vampiric wolf. They drink your blood, shouted Arella. A single bite and you might turn. My blade flew from my hand before I thought. It struck, but the beast held on. I saw this before. They had dragged away my friends, but not this man today. I lost myself as I swung over and over into the beast until I had bashed its body clean. I hit its ugly face until I wiped its smile right off. I bashed its red eyes so they would see no more into my nightmares. It let out a scream. Horrible, gurgling sound soaked in its own blood. Others answered its death howl. Zorro spun beside me, blades like a blur. Perhaps others were attempting to strike me from the shadows. So what if they bite me? Turn me into what? I might already be dead and not know it. A reverend of death to avenge my friends. They'll never come back. I'll never be who I was, but I'll take 'em all down with me. We beat back the second wave, wounded, bloody, but victorious. But this wasn't chaos. A random raid, or a simple ambush. It was a strategy. The goblins drew fire. They took the brunt of the battle. The wolves then stuck into the gaps. Someone had planned this, someone far more clever than we. Halfway across the plaza, we slowed. Obsidian arrows showered us again, and then the sound came. Not a howl, not a roar. Both. Layered voices, each distorted and ghastly yet in a harmony of hate. A dirge sung by the dead calling out to us to join them. It was a voice not of one, but of many. It was the sound of a horde. Annaslad gave the order of retreat. We flew back to the fading light of the lumen stones guarding the elevator as the tide of death poured from every crevice. A final wave would soon crash upon its bars. I looked up at the shaft. I could see it. The elevator. Far above. We just had to hold out just a little longer. These be the demons of the Black Dragon, growled Annaslad, spitting the words like flames from a furnace. We must burn away their filth. His vowels came out guttural, half swallowed in the rough-edged drawl of the north from Loch Mythere, a land of peaten bogs and ruined keeps. First to fall to the Empire's Holy Crusade generations ago. Perhaps that fire is what fuels his rage against the Church, the same that once cleansed his home to appease their golden savior. Aye, praise be to Vulcanar and his eternal flame, he roared. May ye grant me a burning fury that we may pass from the dark into the light. Burn all that may harm me and mine. Let the forge of the earth drink deep her muck and mire. His chanting turned into a murmur, half prayer, half curse. Morgan stood tall before him. A storm coiled into flesh. His body was a shield for the rest of us. He fired one last bolt into the dark before casting the crossbow aside, raising his trusty flail. A man calm in the face of death and certainty of what he wants to protect. We followed his lead in kind, a final volley against the enemy before we braced for the last assault. Samson hurled his spear without a shout. Alice whispered words, loosed. Another eldritch blast. Ha! I tore the torch free from the pillar, brandishing its flame like a dawning sun. The wolves shrank back into the shadows, snarling at the light they so feared. Then came the skittering, a strange mix of chitin and metal plate fueled by fear and hate. From the darkness it emerged, half elf, half spider, its grotesque body twitching with anticipation, eyes like black pearls glistening in a web of doom. The Spider-Man deftly pulled his bow and loosed fast an arrow upon us. It's a drider. Kill it first or we'll turn us into pincushions, warned Arella. We redirected fire as Morgan, Zoros, and I took the van. An arrow sliced the air past me, sinking into Arella's arm. She screamed, teeth clenched before she snapped up Morgan's crossbow, returning fire with lethal precision. There was something in her eyes. She seems to know much of the underneath. More than I, who quickly skimmed the monster manual at the guild hall. She seemed intent on slaying this one beast, as I was in crushing the vampiric wolf. I dared not ask, but I knew there was something more to it, and to her. Our blades clashed with the oncoming force, a strange mix of goblins and wolves and the dead. There were more of those driders in the back, other shadows gathered. And then I felt it. The light, the warmth. The elevator was nearly upon us. The gleaming light from the shaft above unveiling the light of dawn. A gate to the heavens above, or at least to another day to live. Shadows scattered. The beast of the dark recoiled as the forms of the guild guards emerged above, waiting upon the steel platform. Steel salvation. Slowly descending. The ground then began to quake. I looked into the darkness. The beasts were not scared of the guild guards, but something worse loomed in the dark. Each step was like a death knell of a lumbering beast bell, shaped in its hulking, monstrous form. Tiled stone exploded as a club the size of a cot smashed into the earth. Rocky shrapnel sprayed in all directions, a whole goblin volley unto itself. I already knew it. I'm no hero. Retreat! I cried. The elevator groaned to a halt, just within reach. The guild must have seen the beast and immediately began preparing to reverse course. We can't miss our chance for some foolish sense of glory. A hand that gets cut gets no gold at all, after all. We scrambled aboard, hands grasping, hand and steel, legs scrambling over the blood-soaked tile below our feet. The guards seemed over-anxious at wiping the blood, even refusing to allow us to climb aboard lest we tarnish their platform. Prudes, we're gonna die down here. Even Morgan abandoned his post before Anna's lad. A fool. He stood still, eyes aglow as he chanted. A willing sacrifice? As I scampered aboard, I turned. The club fell like a comet from the starless night straight for the paladin. The gears began to turn as the elevator creaked once more to life. I respect you as a warrior, but what a stupid move. And then his eyes opened. Flames burst around his body. A fiery shield born of Volcanar's wrath erupted around him. The club burned mid-swing. The shadowy giant recoiled in pain and horror. I could see just a glance at the giant. Some hideous Formian relic, cloaked in rags and scars. What was once some proud race, twisted by its banishment in the underneath. Morgan reached out. He and I pulled in the sled aboard. Ugh. Just at the last moment before we were out of reach. His legs dangled as we struggled to drag him up. The guild guards simply watched. Pencil pushers, merely worried about their precious little platform. And below us, the mire boiled. The light disappeared as we approached the ceiling. The dark howled in triumph, reclaiming the underneath once more from the adventurers fleeing to safety. The black dragon's children screamed, their tail would chant as we rose. I could see them. A few other levels. Adventurers battled, pressing against They barred openings to the shaft, some fighting to the last with their backs against the bars, others banging, pleading for us to stop. Hey, hell no. I saw one pleading at the bars, a goblin right behind her. I thrust my great sword through, cleaving the beast with ease. Ha! It became caught in its bile as it held the blade fast. The elevator continued to rise. I heard the blade snap against the side. My great sword. A true warrior's sword scavenged from a battlefield, cut in two with only a sharpened rump remaining. I could only laugh. A symbol of what awaits those in the underneath. But not everyone returns to the surface. We all know that now. I count myself lucky as we reached our final destination, the Grand Arena. The elevator clicked into place, sealing the horrors beneath us. Guild workers rushed forward, meticulously brushing away blood and dirt with an almost religious reverence. Masked attendants arrived to collect the covered cots. From the shapes beneath the cloth, it was clear the cots were filled with the dead. I took in the atmosphere around this so called Grand Arena, an old blood sport pit. Its weathered stones stand like rising jagged teeth around us, no telling how many lives died here. I heard rumors of the floor was paved with the bones of the dead. It used to be deeper, so they say, but the sheer amount of dead caused its levels to rise many, many stories high. The arena floor was now the Adventurers Guild main hall. The elevator served as almost a kind of seal, hiding its grim business below. Dwarven machinery hummed, tightly locked and guarded, controlling its descent into the maw of the earth. Counters lined the west wall, carved out of the wall separating the stands and the floor. Survivors of the stampede huddle around, begging the words of the missing friends. Hey, did you see him? Oh, what about her? She was right behind me. Suckers. To the east stood the training halls, built from the old beast pens. I often practiced there before the first delve, swung at dummies, imagining some dramatic final blow I've yet to deliver. Ha! A finishing move, worthy of a hero. To the north, the royal viewing box had been converted into a temple. Neat rows of stretchers sprawled out like offerings. I drifted towards them, half hoping, half dreading to recognize a face. One of my friends, perhaps. But they could have been any of these mauled and partly chewed bodies. Different faces, gobs, homelands, and yet the same fate in the end. A priest draped a white cloth over a body, motioning for it to be taken away. One of those masked attendants came to ferry him off. Another coin for the ferryman. And to the north, a temple, a proper chapel built into its royal viewing box. The injured and dying were lined up by the dozens in neat rows and stretchers. I walked over to see by chance if one of my friends was there. That was unlikely. I knew for sure I left him behind. But anyone could have been one of my friends. Different faces in different places, and the same fate, all the same. I watched the priest as he covered one or right shirt. He didn't make it. His body was thrown upon the cart to be taken away. Despite the chaos, the marketplace and the stands above brewed with life. The viewing stands and benches were filled with tents and stalls, trading loot, dredged and scavenged from below. Anything could be bought from the right price. But someone else always had to pay in blood. My coin pouch jingled lightly. One man's loss is another man's treasure, after all. Blood is life. Coin buys you the things you need to protect, and when it runs out, so does your time. Archways in the stands led deeper into the arena structure. Behind the stands lay the residences and dorms. I've heard they've cramped and more costly if you rent in the pit rest. There's more room the higher you go, but only the best can live on Victor's Row. But there was some advantage to renting here than outside of the arena grounds. Renters earned first rights to delve each day. A pressing advantage should the guild need to restrict access, or raids were jostling to be first to defeat some sort of raid target. Someone bumped into me. Oh! Another fresh adventurer, worse gear than mine. Scraps of leather from a blacksmith's apron stitched with scrap metal. Probably a smith's apprentice once. Their faces twisted in confusion at the commotion. Had any seen what waits in the underneath? No. They'd only been in the underworks, just the sewers beneath the city. Safer grounds for exploration. Rats, slimes, oozes. Psh, almost envied them. I looked up to the night sky. Normally, an arena wouldn't have a roof, but the guild had built one. Only a single open circle remained right above the elevator shaft. It opened to the twinkling stars of the astral sea above. Encircling it were sculpted dragon heads, each adorned with twin gemstones: a jade, ruby, diamond, sapphire, and amethyst. One for each of the angels of Eam. Never cared much for religion, but even I knew what it meant. A blessing before the delve, a ward against the evils below. But to me, the tome felt more like a cage. Its beams were like bars of a prison rather than mere supports. And not even to hold us to it, but trying to keep something down there from ever coming up again. I looked to the south. The lobby was that way, through the great open doors. Great epitaphs and a statue to the last grand champion of the Yena, Dulvaking, stood watch. The Goliath was a trusty double-headed axe, was said to have been one of the few survivors to defeat some horrible enemy in the underneath, clearing the way for what it is today. Its concourses were empty, though. No one was in the mood to leave until word had come from the counters. Survivors clamored for news, yelling, arguing. Gods were being positioned just in case. They should be more appreciative of at least making it out alive, like me. No complaints here? Anna Slad seemed to be organizing the survivors I had battled alongside with. He stood out immediately, his voice like flint and fury, barking demands at the receptionist. "Now look, sir," she stammered. "We will provide a list of survivors as soon as we can. The evacuation took longer than expected." "What evacuation? We were the last out," and a slat slammed his fist onto the polished stone counter. "They're either here or dead. Don't lie to me, lass." He grabbed her collar. A guild guardian stepped in, prying him away. The reception straightened up, this time bolstered by authority. "The guild is prepared to offer compensation to those who have lost companions. You can form a provisional party with the others. We'll waive the registration fees and cover one men's rent in the pit rest." "But what about my companions?" meekly murmured Alice, eyes wet and weary. "They're dead, lass," Anislad whispered. "We've only got each other now. These useless guild bureaucrats will be of no help now." Morgan sighed in exasperation. "A bed for the night sounds good, especially a free one." The group exchanged tired glances, strangers bound by blood and fire. No stronger glue than shared survival. A party needed a name. "Helsing," Anislad muttered. "Helsing?" Ella questioned, raising an eyebrow. "Figures? A fanatic invoking the hells. Boyish fantasy." "Forget it," he grumbled, too spent to argue. "I'm too tired for your kind right now. Helsing it is. Change it later if you must."
And with that, the broken band slipped away southward, past the lobby and down into the pit rest. The old dormitories carved from old holding pens and offices. Not a bad deal, all things to be considered. The guild receptionist exhaled, relieved to have one more angry customer pacified. But more were pressing in behind, all crying, all pleading, all demanding answers. Whispers of sabotage, multiple strikes across the underneath, simultaneous assaults at way stations and checkpoints, damaged elevated gears in maintenance areas. Coordinated, deliberate. The guild must know something. But they weren't talking. As for me, my party's gone. I don't plan to stick with this no one. There's something I need to find out on my own. I cast off this silly trade name, Nemesis. I'll delve alone until I find the truth, buried beneath the stone in blood. To you, my one time friends, may we one day uncover what truly lies in the depths of the underneath. And that is chapter 1. A few typos on there, better clean those up. Anyway, hope you enjoy. See you all next time.